Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Trident Actuator Introduction to Trident Actuator webinar. My name is Ryan. I'm the marketing manager for Trident Actuator. The webinar will begin in a few minutes. It's scheduled for 11:30. We're going to give everyone an opportunity to get in and join. In a few minutes, we are going to ask an introductory question that will cover how much you know about actuators and how familiar you are with actuators in general, or with Trident, or if you're not familiar at all, that's okay. Today, we'll get started in a few minutes with Mike Sturgill and Chris Massey, and I hope you enjoy the webinar.
For those of us just joining, you'll see a poll pop up. Please feel free to respond to that. Just getting us kind of an understanding as to how familiar you are with actuators and with Trident Actuator itself. But we'll get started here in just a moment.
And just to clarify, yes, all participants are on mute. The only ones who you should be able to hear are the four of us on screen right now. And you can use the Q&A part on the left side of your screen, assuming you're on a desktop version. You'll be able to ask questions in. There will be time for Q&A in the end.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started because we're about 3 minutes past 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. First and foremost, thank you for everyone attending. My name is Mike Sturgill. You've heard Dennis O'Flynn O'Brien speak. He's our managing director at Trident. You heard Ryan Snowden, who's our marketing director, speak, who kicked this off. And we also have our director of engineering, Chris Massey. So there's like Ryan said, the four you see on the screen are us four. So yeah, there's a poll, and then this Zoho is a little different. Like Ryan said, the Q&A is where you can ask questions, not the chat. So I don't even think you have chat on there, but under Q&A, obviously you can ask questions. We had a question come through, so that's where you want to ask questions. What we're going to try to do is answer those throughout the presentation, which is going to be about 20 minutes. We're going to leave 10 minutes at the end to answer questions. We want to be respectful of your time, but we will stay on however long past that 30-minute mark we need to answer your questions. A couple just upcoming announcements for everyone. On September 19th, we'll start marketing it, but we're going to have our second webinar. It's going to be on how to choose an actuator. So you'll start seeing that probably next week to sign up for that. Also, if you attend WebTech, you might have seen some of our posting and marketing, but we'll be there in the South Building in booth 3556. So if you're going to be attending WebTech, obviously we'd love for you to come by and see us and meet us face to face. And then, so those are the two big announcements. And then we have something at the end with that as well. And also for those who want professional development hour certificates, after the webinar, you will receive an email for attending and from Ryan. And if you just email him back asking for that, he'll make sure he gets it to you. So just so everyone's clear on that. But with that said, I'm going to start off and introduce you into Trident Actuators. I was told by my colleagues, everyone should be able to see my screen. If you can't, just throw something in the Q&A, but you should be able to see it. So we're going to go ahead and kick this off. So Trident's been around actually for 60 years this year. So just to give you an idea how long we've been in the market, we build electro-hydraulic actuators for critical infrastructure. We are in the water, wastewater, and heavy industrial. We manufacture in Mamaroneck, New York, which is just north of New York City. And we have about over 300 installations in 90 different locations throughout the United States and internationally in Vancouver, in Saudi Arabia, and Hong Kong. So we're a little of everywhere. Our actuators and our panels are submersible, explosion proof, and our average field lifespan is 20 years. We are compliant with the Buy America, Build America Act, and are otherwise known as BABA. And we offer a full 5-year product warranty on our actuators and panels. So just to give you a little background on Trident Actuator and what we do. So our actuators operate valves or gates, no matter what size, through pressurized hydraulic fluid. Our actuators are self-contained unitized actuators. We have a cylinder, an oil reservoir. If it's a fail-safe, which I'll talk more about, we'll have an accumulator and a hydraulic manifold. Our largest installation is a single installation is a 350 million gallon a day wastewater plant, where we actually have 6 actuators on 84-inch by 146-inch influent gates. And then we also have 4 smaller ones and some 4-bay gates, and actually have some pump control valves in that same plant. So that's our largest single installation. And actually, we'll have towards the end, we'll have a couple case studies you'll see on that. So, getting real elementary to everyone here, what is an actuator? It's a device that makes something move or operate. There's 2 types: linear, which makes an object move in a straight line, and rotary in a circular motion. Trident Actuator builds both rotary and linear actuators. And then obviously actuators have sources of power to move them. There's electricity, there's pneumatic with compressed air, and then hydraulically with a variety of liquids as the source of energy. So I said Trident Actuator makes rotary and linear. So we make basically 4 models. We make a fail set or fail in place. And then with those models, when power fails, the valve or gate will stay in the position it is at power loss. Now we also make a fail safe. So that, like I said before, has an accumulator and a hydraulic manifold that on the loss of power, the actuator will basically take the accumulator, and the actuator will dump the stored power energy to close or open the gate or valve, whatever the sequence is the customer wants. And we can do that as fast or as slow as the customer wants. So just to give you an idea there. So our nomenclature, if it's got a 2, that's a rotary actuator. A 2000 would be fail in place or fail set. And a 2500 would be a fail safe on command or power loss, having your accumulator and your hydraulic manifold. And obviously rotary, it moves in a circular motion. If you see a 3, that was our linear moving in a straight motion. A 3000 series, same idea, fail set or fail in place. So loss of power, gate or valve stays where it is until power is restored. And then 3500 would be our fail safe on command or power loss. And that's, we have an accumulator, hydraulic manifold, and once again, would close or open, whatever sequence the end user wants, as fast or as slow as they want it to do. And it can also be variable. So it can close very fast for the first 80% close and, very slow for the last 20. So really it's up to what the end user wants. But those are our 4 different actuators we build. What you see on the right, that is actually a rotary actuator. It is a 2500 with the cylinder here. And then this is our actuator. If this was a real video and you hit play, it would basically circularly move up and down. So give you an idea of the different actuators we build. So I said we'd be on any gate or valve. Here's just, I'll go through it. I'm not going to, pretty quick, but on a butterfly valve, you would find our linear or rotary actuator. Gate valves, we would use linear. A knife valve, a linear actuator, and then plug valve would be linear or rotary actuator. So once again, linear, straight line movement, rotary with a circular movement. Globe valves, we would use a linear actuator, and ball valves, we can use linear or rotary. And then a cone valve, we would use a linear actuator. And then these are what we would say the critical applications that you find us in the most are on pump control valves. So rotary cone valves or metal seated ball valves. And then obviously, as we talked about earlier, influent gates. So on On both of all three of these, we would use a electro-hydraulic fail-safe linear actuator. And these are, we talk about critical applications. We talk about behind the pump control valves, where they have very expensive pumps you're protecting, or in your influent gate, obviously very expensive process you're protecting. So this is really where Trident Actuator stands above the rest of the other electro-hydraulic actuators in the market. Taking a look under our cover here, our standard would be a stainless steel and cover with a stainless steel base plate. That would be the standard one that makes it explosion proof and submersible. You can see here we have a hydraulic reservoir and a fail-safe hydraulic manifold. And then we have a hydraulic cylinder with a position transducer. This is a linear, so this is a 3500. It was going on 30-inch ball valves. And just so you have an idea there, see, we use 3/16 metal tubing because that hydraulic pressure can be up to 3,000 psi. We're usually around 2,500. And just so for everyone to know, we don't keep these gauges on there. They are capped off once we put the enclosure on. We just do this for testing in our factory. And one other thing we do is we use position transducers. I know a lot of people hear about limit switches, but we find these less maintenance and a much better option than limit switches. So that's what we prefer to use. But this would be the inside cover of a 3500 fail-safe linear Trident actuator. Now you can't see it, so I'm going to go to another one a little more under the hood. Sorry, we didn't have good pictures on that first one, but so once again, we have another linear 3500. Here's your accumulator with stored nitrogen. There's the electric motor, and then with the fail-safe actuators, there's actually three ways of redundancy of how to open and close. Primarily, use electric power, and the power loss, you can use the stored energy in an accumulator, and then worst case, you can use a manual hand pump that comes standard at the bottom of the base plate with directional valves for all our actuators. So there's three different ways to operate that actuator. Hopefully you never have to use the manual hand pump, because you don't want to be low man on the totem pole or low woman on the totem pole when you have to crank that 30,000 times, or we have it down to a science depending on what size valve or gate it's on. One thing to know is every time you start one of our actuators that is fail safe, initially the stored energy in the accumulator has to charge. So you cannot operate until the stored energy is charged. Once it's charged, you have a full operation of the actuator and the energy stored in that event of power loss, or if it's on command, as some customers want it that way. For small power blips, they don't want to lose basically closing a gate or valve or opening it. But that's it. Underneath our stainless steel enclosures, control system. So our control system we're a UL 508 certified panel shop. We designed basically all the controls with what the end user wants and the requirements by them. We have NEMA 4X, we have NEMA 6P for submersibility, NEMA 7 for explosion proof, and then NEMA 12. One big thing about Trident actuators is our components for our control panels are not proprietary. So if the end user needs, over time, there's a lot of relays, controls, wiring inside the panels. They need parts. They don't have to come through Trident. They can, but you can go to your local supply house and get whatever you need to maybe repair something in the control panel. Standard control panels, the one more on the right, what you would see, there's one panel for every actuator, HMI with redundant knobs for ease of use. You can do work in local or remote. We have obviously some SCADA integration and relays for the end users. The one on the left is actually from that large project we talked about in New York City. And there's actually 4 actuators inside this cabinet. They just chose that because of space and configurement. But same thing, HMI panel showing the different actuators and redundant knobs. So, big thing for us, we build all the control panels to what the customer wants, and the parts and components are not proprietary. So it makes ease of use for the end user if they ever need to replace anything inside the panels. One thing you're going to hear about Trident, we don't have anything off the shelf. We are extremely customizable. different options we have. If you don't need submersibility or explosion proof, some areas won't. We can do aluminum covers, but also we can do a plastic or fiberglass cover. We prefer not to do anything without covers, just because safety concerns, keeping the inside of the actuator and all its components free of dust and debris. But once again, with that high pressure hydraulic oil, if something were to occur, we prefer that it be enclosed in something. We have some custom designs like split systems based on fitment needs in the areas. We like to use, and our standard is stainless steel hydraulic tubing, but we can use the high pressure rubber hose that you see if there's vibration issues. And then if you really want a submersible actuator, submersible panel, obviously we'd give you submersible cable. And as I showed you that hand pump, we can do the drill bit. I know a lot of end users that do the maintenance on these have the battery powered drills, and so we can do that. We also, if you want to be able to have more stored energy, to be able to maybe open close, whatever the sequence is on a fail safe, we can also add another accumulator or a larger one. So a lot of different options to whatever really the end user wants. So I said it before, but the biggest thing about a Trident actuator is we want the critical applications for gates and valves that protect your critical infrastructure. We want to be in areas that are flood prone for the submersible applications, to use the submersibility. And we are very reliable during any type of power outage. And once again, we can meet customization solutions. And I don't think there's an area we haven't been able to figure out how to get our actuator there. And maybe there's footment issues, vertical issues. We really try hard. We really find a way to be able to fit it into wherever that area is that the end user wants it. So Trident is across the water cycle. I'm not going to read underneath here exactly word for word, but we're in water extraction, water storage, distribution, the wastewater collection, water treatment, and water release. So really, wherever there's water or product and you have a gate or a valve, a Trident actuator can be there. And it doesn't matter if it's water, wastewater, industrial, we can be in any application. We're going to just go a little more in depth on a couple applications where we frequent. The wastewater treatment process, we can really be throughout the process. Obviously, we talk about the influent gate using a 3500 fail-safe linear. So, to protect all this infrastructure for maybe too much incoming that the plant can't handle it. You can use our 2000 or 3000 series that are fail place, fail or fail set along in some of these different applications throughout the process on different gates or valves. And then really, you're looking at your, the pump control valves. I told you is where we really do we like to be. So here's where you have a fail safe, to protect that pump in the event of any type of failure or catastrophe. And throughout the rest of the process, going to the waste activated sludge and the return sludge, where you can find our fail safe actuators that would react in power loss or on command. But throughout the process, the Trident actuator can be in all the different processes from influent all the way to the effluent side of wastewater treatment. Once again, water treatment, same thing. And then the thing you have here is the black one will be our fail in place. And then obviously where we have on the pump control valves, like over here, would be our fail safe Trident actuator. So once again, on the influent side, we want to be out there with, with a fail safe actuator and the pump control valves, but all these different processes, you could put a Trident actuator with a fail place or fail set. Just how critical each application is for you, it really depends on what you want. If you want the fail safe or the fail place or failed set, but we do quite a bit in the water treatment process, as well as obviously the wastewater treatment process. And then we do quite a bit obviously on pump stations, whether sewer, water boosting, stormwater. Usually on the discharge side, you'd have a 25 or 3500 fail safe linear or rotary actuator that would close to protect those pumps in your station from water hammer or back pressure. So once again, I can't say enough. We want the critical applications where, failure is not an option, and you can't have a catastrophic event happen to your systems. One quick world thing. Some of you may have heard of Rodney Hunt. They made a scuba that, well, Rodney Hunt's still around. They made an actuator called the Scuba that was a, supposed to be a unitized, enclosed, submersible actuator that they stopped producing approximately 15 years ago, and they don't support it. Just don't get us confused with them. It happens a lot. If anybody ever says, the covers are always off and the nitrogen's always leaking, it's most likely every time that's ever happened, it's never been a Trident. So just, look, that's a perfect spot for us to retrofit and replace, since there's no support for them, with a pretty similar footprint. But yeah, just if you ever hear of Rodney Hunt Scuba Actuator, that is not Trident. It has not given us a great name, but just want you to know there is a difference. And actually, I've done I would say a white paper on the differences. If anybody's interested in that, obviously you can get me offline and I can get it to you. But there's quite a few differences between us and Rodney Hunt, and the largest being we're still in business and supportive of our installations throughout the world. So that's just a big thing. It happens quite a bit. I just don't want to get confusion there. So now, I know we're getting towards the end of the little bit past I wanted to be. So I'm going to go through a couple spotlights for you on some project spotlights. Talked about this project in New York City. This is the one where we had basically 10 actuators on influent gates and the 4 bay gates on the influent. So you have some very large actuators with the cylinder. We call it a split systems on top of the gate. Our actuator is actually is separate from the cylinder because of just the way the spacing and what they wanted there. The panels are actually upstairs quite a bit. These are the same panels I talked about. We do have panels at the gate. You can't see it in this picture, but there is explosion-proof panels to operate. In this application, there's actually 3 spots to operate the actuators. Here or there in their control room, they have an HMI setup. And then, like I said, down at the actuator level, there's an explosion-proof. So as I said, this is one of our largest single install at 350 million gallons a day that we're protecting in that wastewater treatment plant. Once again, just highlight the submersibility. I'm not going to go too crazy in depth, but we do have a 3500 on a pump control valve inside the same plant. And during Hurricane Sandy, this actual was underwater for about 1 week and still operated, closed the valve. So just shows the submersibility that we have and the capabilities there. It was underwater, operated, and that's only one of the few stories we have about our submergibility and still being able to protect assets. Speaking of clean water, this is a nice application we have in the Dallas area where we're pumping a lot of clean water hundreds of miles away from a reservoir to the local cities there. We have our 3500 fail-safe linear on multiple 36-inch and 20-inch valves. And this is I talked about how fast or slow you wanted us to close with the stored energy in the accumulator. Basically, they had us create a 15-minute close time to prevent water hammer. So nice application in the Texas area. You talk about us and our reliability. This is a station, a sewage station, pump station in New York, and it's on a modulating valve that's been operating since 1998. And because we had to have a critical and we had to have reliability because that it was constantly moving. So it had to be an explosion-proof area, and it was on a modulating valve that basically is moving all the time. And this thing's been installed over 20 years. So we want those critical applications of valve modulation as well. And then, everything's not inside. I know a lot of people don't think wastewater treatment plants are pretty, but some of the, larger water booster stations or plants usually are pretty nicely kept up. But our actuators are made for the elements. This is outside of California, out in the desert. This is actually, I have to fix that. It's actually a rotary. It's a 2500 rotary fail safe on a butterfly valve that, helps operate pumps gray water for agricultural uses. So just shows that, we can withstand the elements. And then our final one is really nice when we talk about actuators. They're underground out in Washington, D.C. They had 2 sluice gates that they wanted installed, and they wanted reliability that they can't dig the road up. So we've been underground for over 10 years with no interruption in service on both of those. You would only know they're there by if you were walking at grade and knew what our panel looked like. So you talk about reliability, you haven't had to mess with that in 10 years and dig up the road. So really a staple for us. So with that said, that was it for the presentation. I know I went a little more than the 20 minutes. So I'll just say, look at the Q&A questions, but you'll receive the PDH. Be sure to email Ryan Snowden, but you'll respond to a thank you email coming through. And then you will see that come through. If not, there's Ryan's contact. If you need it, you can reach out to us or whoever your sales partner you signed up with. And then just another thing, the next webinar is how to choose an actuator. We'll start marketing, and that will be September 19th. And like I said, we'll be at WebTech in October at booth 3556. So I'm going to look at the questions in the chat and see making sure. Yes.
Hey, Mike, I have
Okay.
a couple questions came through. I can read them for you if you want.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, we have a couple of really good ones. I'm going to group a couple together because there seem to be a number of questions about the customization that we can offer. So can you speak a little bit to our design in terms of input voltages, communication protocols, things like that with our customization?
Yeah, so really for our communication, we can do whatever you would like. I mean, there's really, Modbus, you name it. That's one thing me and Chris have talked about on some designs we've been doing. There's nothing really we can't do for our communications from our panels to what the customer wants. It's really up to what the end user wants. We can make it work on our side to interface however that is. So I know that's kind of generic, but really we can do whatever's required. And then typically we want to be at 483 full 3-phase but we can do single phase. We have where there's things where we have to, they don't have other choices. And we've also have done DC applications where that's been prevalent in some areas. So I know that was kind of, like I said, generic, but we really can do whatever it is on the integration, the talking back and forth or whatever you want there, whatever PLC you want. And then our typical voltages, we would like to be 483 phase, but we've done single phase.
And there was another question about interfacing with different types of valves and gates. Are there limits to what we can do? Are there certain manufacturers that we prefer to work with?
No, we're completely agnostic to that. We will work with any manufacturer for gate or valve. Typically, obviously, they give us how we can couple up to it. And then we will build a coupling to couple up to the gate or valve. But yeah, we will work with any of them. Our different sales partners throughout North America represent different valves and gates. So we work with all of them, and there is really no preference for us.
I think you might have touched on this, Mike, but I'm not sure. Somebody asked whether we meet the Build America, Buy America requirements.
Yes, we do meet Build America, Buy America. All our components, there's very, very minimal that would come from outside the United States. Everything is United States. So yes, we meet that.
How about recommended maintenance? Someone asked about recommended maintenance procedures and timing.
Yeah, so when we give out a preventive maintenance, we would tell you annually to do checks, and that check is to check the control panels, make sure the wires from the actuator control panel, nothing's been cut or severed, and then just if it, make sure it's working. Make sure it goes into fail safe if it's a fail safe application. And if it's not, just making sure it's operating the gate or valve how it should. We do not recommend to go inside the actual actuator enclosure unless the actuator tells you at the control panel. So there is a sensor inside the enclosure that will tell you basically if something's going on for you to, hey, we need to take the enclosure off. There's no filters in there. There's no real maintenance to do inside of the actuator. And as I said before, we've had the one that's been in the ground for 10 years. So they're not opening that actuator up. So one thing we tell you, if the actuator is not telling you to unbolt it, then don't do it. Once it leaves our shop after testing, it goes out bolted. And really the only way we would have to take that off would be our field technician at startup if something had to be adjusted. But very low maintenance. Most of it's just making sure the panel's working. There's nothing going on there. And then is it operating correctly? What it's supposed to be doing is really the maintenance you have to do.
And it is 12 o'clock, but I do think we have time for one more quick question. Someone asked about the enclosure options that might be available.
Yeah, so standard is our 3/16 stainless that has the submergibility and explosion proof. We can do aluminum. We've had some applications where you don't need neither explosion proof or stainless. But so we can do aluminum, and then we would do maybe a fiberglass or something of real lightweight that still covers the complete actuator. Once again, we don't want them to be, our hydraulic system is closed, but we, just with those high pressures, keeping debris outside of the actuator, the motor, that whole 9 yards, we want to make sure we have some sort of cover and not just sell actuators without covers. So we can do aluminum, stainless steel. I really, and then, like I said, at least something on it, whether it's fiberglass or some sort of thick, clear type of little thicker plastic maybe, but something to cover it up. So yes, definitely different options there.
Yeah, there's some more great questions here, but I think we're out of time. So maybe people can send us additional questions if they have any.
Yeah, please do. If you need our contacts, like I said, please, most of you have signed up via, if it's LinkedIn, find us, or I think Ryan, you will get Ryan's email on the thank you email he sends out, and he can get it to us. So if we missed anything, please let us know. And just thank you so much for everyone's time today. And we look forward to working with everyone, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you on the next one. And oh, hold on, there's a contacts page. I messed up. There you go. I'll leave that up for a second in case you want to snap a picture of that with your phone or something to follow up with us. And like I said, if you send back to Ryan for the professional development hours, we'll get those to you. And then we can also get you, if you would like the presentation, just let us know. And whatever other questions we didn't make. But once again, on behalf of my colleagues, Ryan, Dennis, and Chris, thank you so much. Thank you for all our sales partners out there that have been on the line and invited all of you. And we look forward to you at the next one, and look forward to hopefully meeting you at WebTech. Have a fantastic Thursday, wherever you are in the country.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.